What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter.
Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. We're seeing more properties like this being built in front of a house. It's going to be torn down soon.
I understand that there are power lines that are getting kind of close.
What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is a commercial real estate building.
I'm joined today with Rob. Is it Natale? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, actually, that is correct. You're one of the few who gets it right, Natale.
Awesome. And how you doing today, Rob?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, Dan. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, great. And I got to tell you, I'm excited because my very favorite audience member is watching today. And why is my favorite audience member watching? It's because this is a chance encounter where I interview commercial syndicators, buyers, sellers, all those types. And why do I do that? Well, part of it is because it's the law. Most of the deals, the off-market private deals that are out there, you're not even allowed to talk to other people about them until you have a documented substantive relationship. And it's kind of ridiculous, but that's what we need to do. We also need to find out if there is any overlap in our businesses. So I always make sure to find out what my guest is up to and put it in the context of how deals work for your benefit. But before we get too excited with that, Rob, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, my name is Rob Natale. I am located up in the great city of Boston, specifically the North End. Who's familiar with the city? I am founder of North Square Capital from a job standpoint, and in talking kind of from peer to peer to folks in the space at a very high level, though, for those out there who've thought about wanting to get involved in investing. Thing is this: what I do is I'm buying apartments with people who want to own and benefit from real estate without having to deal with all the hassles that come with it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're interested in learning more, hearing more, I'd love to chat with you and really go from there.
Beautiful. And we'll get that in a second as well, because we got a bunch of VAs who watch this show and they got to have it at the right time or else they're not going to be on the right screen or something. But before that, I need to go through the 5 distinct motivations. And even before that, I have to say, but wait, check your rate. Rob, can you look in through your camera into the audience's device and see if they've got the red subscribe button or do they have the gray one? It's on the audience. Yeah, I'm just kidding. It's not. So the 5 distinct motivations that I've found really distinguish commercial investors. I've found these ones really tell me why people are doing this in a much clearer version. So the first motivation for some people, because after all, this can take months even just to close the deal. Some people are doing it because they're preserving their purchasing power. So what's that all about? If somebody already has a portfolio of businesses, properties, whatever, then there's a good chance that they're using the proceeds from that, the profits, to make ends meet. And when inflation rears its ugly head, or when there's an asset crash or something like that, they'll want to make new acquisitions to make sure that it doesn't spoil the party. So that's why some people make acquisitions. That's not what I'm up to. What I'm up to, because I got a background in technology, which means I'm a high salary, high wage earner. But the problem with that is you're paying more in tax than anybody when you're making that high income from salary or wages. So it hit me as like, well, how can I pivot and take my CRM tech skills and turn it around and get deployed capital as my reward for that? So that's what I'm up to. It's not everybody. As a matter of fact, more common is this next one, and especially beginners. Usually it's not necessarily fast tracking retirement, but they at least want to take control over their schedule. And maybe that means working fewer months per year. Maybe it means working fewer weeks per month. But regardless, even if it's just leaving the door open for retirement, it's really like a scaling back. Whereas the last two, that's not in the cards at all. Like this next group, they're so ambitious. They want to buy their entire hometown. They want that generational wealth to make sure that their great grandchildren never have to hold a day job, and that's why they're going to keep on hustling into their 90s. Just like the last group, I like to say that they're trying to save the world, but really what I mean is you need a big, stable financial backing if you're going to make a really big impact with a group of society or the environment or animals or whatever it is that's your choice. So that's why some people are making these acquisitions. So as far as you go, Rob, which of those five really resonate with you? What combination of them describe you best?
Yeah, I would say for me, it would be the last two predominantly. They all have different sprinkles that go into why, like my why and why I'm doing this. But the biggest motivation why is, family wise. So, my mom, my nieces, I read one of Ed Milet's book, The Power of One More, and talking about he was the one from his family to really start that path of generational type wealth, or really breaking the cycle of going to that next level. That's what I am going to do, is be that person so I can really provide more for my family. And again, my nieces, and to help out in any way I can. The other really too is, helping others. I do believe in, contributing from a charitable organization standpoint, not only being able to contribute more on a monetary standpoint, but then being able to have the time and bandwidth to focus more time on that, which goes back into, having more time to do what you want in your schedule. If you have that income to do so, where I can spend more time on that, that's another one of my major motivations externally. Obviously, internally, there's things I want to do myself. I want to travel a bunch. I love to travel, but my whys are much more, I would say, externally than internally.
I love that. That's fantastic. And that brings me to the next segment, which is the tolerance for risk assessment. It occurred to me that some people come to commercial real estate because they heard, hey, there's big money in it. And it's like, well, you really should have a better idea of what's going on. You should have some sophistication beyond that. So for that, I have a fill in the blank question, please. There are many popular investment asset classes, but I think blank is too risky. What's too risky for you, Rob?
I would put it more so in, for me, what's risky is the crypto space, because I don't know a lot about it, right? So for example, I think a lot of folks, and we can see what happened with most recently FTX and what happened to that scenario, and even looking at some of the underlying backing investors that got involved. I feel like the crypto space has built so much popularity, even with celebrities advertising for them, like Tom Brady, that for me, view that as risky because I don't know a lot about it. So my overarching answer, though, would be is anything that you get involved investing with that you really don't have an understanding of why you're getting into it, and you're not even able to explain what the asset class is that you're getting investing into, I would say is too risky.
I love that. I remember one of the precursors to the big stock market crash a century ago was that people would get their shoes shined, and the shoe polishers would be giving you stock advice. And so that was the big giveaway back then, that things were on the way out. It's pretty intense stuff as a whole, but we stick to commercial real estate. And the nice thing about this show here, Chance Encounters, is in every single episode, I go through all 6 phases of the DanDoesDeals.com Commercial Competency Cube. You can get your own copy for free. I don't even ask for your email, which is a really stupid idea. Okay, you should always, from a marketing perspective, get some contact information, but I don't bother to do that. If you go to DanDoesDeals.com, you can download and print out your own one. And I want you to, because I want you to be able to confidently and effectively communicate on the subject of commercial real estate and how these deals work. But on top of that, I also want you to understand how my guest fits into these. So I go through all 6 phases in every episode. So let's do this. The repositioner is the first person I'm going to talk about. They look at a bunch of different properties. They do a bunch of different paperwork. And what are they doing with all that paperwork? Well, the first thing, it's they got a fancy word for it. It's underwriting, and what it means is they're doing the math, they're doing the arithmetic. The first thing they need to find out is, hey, is this broker slash seller even telling the truth about how much this business is making? Like they might, give you like 18-month numbers when it should be 12, and that's going to really, really throw you off. So the repositioner has to know these sorts of things. But on top of that, I call them specifically repositioners because they're figuring out how can they change the business or change the property so it's got more upside. Now there's a few different ways. There's 3 different ways that they in their tool belt to pull that off. The first one is to get more advantageous lending. So if you're talking to financiers, you're talking to people who only deal with paper and money. They're not actively involved in the deals. Okay, those are the financiers. So if you have more advantageous lending, then there's already some upside cooked into the deal for the repositioner. But let's assume that that's not the case. The first place they're going to look is operations. They're going to stop those Benjamins from going down the toilet right there. They're going to find those different efficiencies, but there's more to operations than just unclogging toilets and mowing lawns and collecting rents and all that kind of stuff. Like one thing that pops out about my contribution is a marketing piece, which has to do with keeping the vacancy rate low, but there are also all sorts of automations and things like that that come into play. But because commercial real estate is so competitive, that's probably not enough just looking at more efficient operations. So the repositioner is going to get a contractor team in to do a value add or do the renovations. You fix these units up and the new tenants will be happy to pay more in rent than the previous ones. But having contractors work on these places, it's a pretty expensive habit. And if you have the same problem that I have, see, I'm from the internet, okay? So that means like if something goes down, I need a local. Okay, I need somebody who's like an hour or 2 away tops, because in an hour or 2, I'll still be stuck at the airport. Okay, so that's definitely not me. But when the repositioner has this team, they turn around to the financier and they say, hey, I want to pick up this property. It's a few hundred units and it's tens of millions of dollars. Hey, you don't happen to have, say, like tens of millions of dollars you want to lend me, do you? Well, the financier is going to have one more question I haven't mentioned, which is, who is your KP? Who's your sponsor? So if you're just trying to pool up money with you and your pals to take over an apartment complex or a commercial property, you're not going to be eligible for the loan unless somebody in the fold already owns a similar asset. Okay. And on top of that, so what I'm saying is like, it's, if you want a 350 unit apartment complex, somebody in the fold has to already own a 350 unit apartment complex, even if your name is Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. But on top of that, you also need a certain amount of liquidity, and you need a balance sheet among the team of at least the amount of the loan. But if you have all those pieces, you got yourself a commercial real estate deal. So, Rob, I believe you have some deal finding roles, which is like a repositioner thing, and then you have the investor relations piece, which every repositioner has as well, which is more on the financier side. Have I got that more or less right as far as what you're contributing to your next deal, or do you want to take it away?
Yeah, so no, I'll add a little color to that, Dan. So what you said, yeah, it's 2 main pieces. So it predominantly, especially on the investor relations side, is number one, I'm going through and talking with, prospective clients and prospects really about what type of opportunity is available. So
Mm-hmm.
anytime I chat with somebody for the first time, we always do something we call a discovery call.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, there's nothing being pitched, there's nothing being sold. It is strictly a getting to know one another conversation. The first thing I want to do is I want to get a much better and an understanding of the individual's investing experience. I want to know, do they have any experience investing in real estate? I'd like to know kind of what their pain points are, what their risk tolerance are, what's their horizon as far as, if they need to invest and they need that money back, let's say in a year, that's going to be a dramatically different conversation than talking to somebody who can let it ride and go for a hold period of 3 to 5 years. So I want to know everything. I want to get myself educated so we can have a good conversation. And then I want them to really know about me, who I am, not only as really as a person, my moral compass, why I'm doing what I'm doing, what my background is, but also what I'm looking for a criteria standpoint from opportunities to invest in. So that's what and then if an opportunity arises, then we will go back and we'll continue to have those conversations specifically to that. And the other piece is, when going on and being part of a team, like you said, on the investor relations side, I'm going to be heavily involved with the communication to the investor base, what's going on with the property, how is the business plan being implemented, keeping them as breast and up to date so no one's in the dark, and answering any questions folks are going to have at a given time. I want to be their resource for any questions and communication.
Beautiful. I love it. So my next question then, I think it has more to do with your team then, but I always ask what your buy box is, just in case. And so when commercial syndicators, investors are talking about a buy box or an ideal property, there's three main things coming in. The first one is geography. So which states, which counties, possibly even which neighborhood. Okay, that all matters. Second one is the size of the deal. And we're talking about multifamily in general here. Sometimes it's self-storage or mobile home parks or industrial or something like that. And industrial and warehousing, it goes up a square footage. But in general, multifamily and like retail, a bunch of them go off of the unit count as well, like depends on retail. But anyway, so you're going to have different people taking down 15 unit deals from 500 unit deals. And so that's why the size is going to be absolutely pivotal. But the third thing, it's called class. And unfortunately, they have two things with the exact same name in the same rating system. So let's go through these. The first meaning of the word class, it has to do with the condition of the building. So how old is it? Is it beat up? Is it up to date? Is it no frills? Or does it have all kinds of amenities and luxuries? Okay, that's one version of class. The other one, which is sometimes just called the area, the other version of class here, it has to do with the crime rate and the school districts of where the property is actually located. But both of those two are rated the same way as in grade schools. So it's like A plus, A minus, B plus, and so on. But Rob, as far as your group in general, or something like if you're willing to take it down with a team yourself, what's your buy box look like? What is easier to say yes to and more difficult to say no to?
I'd say the current buy box is predominantly in the value add space, really from, I'd say, C to B plus, unit size 50 or above. Ideally it's really 100 above, but 50 or above. As far as geographically, it's agnostic. As long as the opportunity makes sense, it makes sense, working from a synergistic perspective, the moral compasses align. I'm open to that. The one piece I'd say from hesitancy standpoint is areas that can get hit by hurricanes, especially now with the frequency and intensity of storms now becoming more, I'd argue, more prevalent. I do steer away from those specific areas. So anywhere directly on the coast, I steer clear from, predominantly in the Sunbelt region where that can occur, like in Texas, Louisiana, the Gulf side, same within Florida, both on the Atlantic and Gulf side. I think that covers most of your question, or did I miss anything else that you might have asked?
Yeah, you got them all. Because you did class actually in your introduction as well, and then you hit the geography. So 3 for 3. Boom! Good stuff. All right. But the next section that we have here, it has to do with who you're best at helping, and some background about that. My favorite part about commercial real estate is people are so friendly and helpful because they're always eager to give referrals and build new teams. But even though that's the case, all of us, because of our unique skill sets, we're better suited to help some people more than others. So me personally, I'm always looking for the sponsor KPs because of my marketing and digital automation, CRM background. And for that to really kick in and be real fuel for the fire rather than, just like what a grunt is, you have to have a real foundation first. So those are the people who I'm usually looking for. Now, Rob, I don't know if you want to say like beginners or something, like if you have a 506B deal going right now, you're not supposed to entice investors. So if you have like a donut on your table, don't like wave it in front of the camera or something, whatever. So who are you better suited to help out from the roles on the die here?
Yeah, I would say out of the folks that make it up, I would kind of go in line with what you were saying.
Hmm.
Dan, really folks from not only the sponsor, the KB side of
Hmm.
things,
Hmm.
even though I'm focusing predominantly, like I said, on investor relations and the capital raising side. Like you said, everyone I've built, even my time in the space, a lot of good relationships. So what I always like to do too is, connect individuals with one another. It's all about helping out as many people really as you can. I feel like that naturally kind of falls within me as one of my strengths. So that's why if I come across different maybe off market deals or opportunities or even potential financing that can be available for sponsors or KPs, especially in this environment where lending it's more of a challenge now than
Yeah.
it was, 3 months ago.
Yeah.
That's where I feel I can bring some strength to the table.
Beautiful, beautiful. And we met through some LinkedIn related Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
And, it's been a few times that, it's really easy to find me on LinkedIn because I got the distinct last name and the QR code right here. If you scan that with your phone, that'll bring you to the FAQs page of 506 Me, which is a service where I will be your chief compliance officer for as little as $4.97 a year. But as far as you go, Rob, like website or which social media platform, phone, whatever, what's the best way to reach out?
Yeah, so I can be found on LinkedIn. So under Rob Natale. You can find me at northsquarecapital.com. Those are really the two areas where I focus on the business side of things. Social media, I do need to get more on that, which we might dive into the VA side of things from an Instagram perspective and Facebook. I mean, you can find me at Instagram at rnatali78. You're going to see half the pictures of my family and my nieces on there. You won't see the most exciting stuff, depends who you talk to, but that's what you'll find on that. Business related, it's going to be LinkedIn and it's going to be at northsquarecapital.com.
All right, beautiful. So then the only thing left is actually not for you, Rob. It's for you in the camera, which is if you have been watching this episode and have been noticing migraine-like symptoms, like piercing through your eyes, okay, it's probably because under my hand here, there's this big, ugly red, it's really ugly. This big red button, and it says subscribe on it. And the only way to rid your life of this eyesore is to click on it, and it's totally free. Okay, you don't even have to put in your email if my recollection serves. But the important thing is it has a magical power, this gray button, other than like getting rid of the which is YouTube might actually start paying for these videos instead of me, which would be really, really awesome. And the only trade-off for you is that my videos might show up on your list of suggestions, but you can go ahead and ignore those because I just appreciate the fact that you spent this time with me. Just like Rob, I appreciate the fact that you spent this time with me as well. It's been nice getting to know you a little bit better.
No, absolutely.
Make sure you 506B me. Any syndicators, make sure you 506B me.
Hi.
Oh, hey, yeah, here's my code. You got your QR code scanner? Okay, yeah, oh yeah, just hold it right in the square there. Okay, cool. And now you hit open in browser.
Okay.
Okay, are you already logged into 506B me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so there's my video. So now I'm already on your watch list. So when you get back to your hotel, you can find out what my core competencies are and my level of sophistication. Sound good?
Yeah.
I love your hat. Real estate's a scam. That's really funny.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you.
You too.
506B me, everybody.